this is Christina Barn. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, today we're going to be talking about Donald Trump at the Libertarian Convention and who they nominated. Oh boy. Because Donald Trump, he got some boos a little bit, but at the end of the day, I think because of who they nominated, he probably, had a decent week, and many libertarians or people who thought about maybe voting for Libertarian will probably come away wanting to vote for Trump regardless, because not the best choice. We will talk about why. Also, Joe Biden, I guess I don't know how much they really thought that they could help with this pier thing that they built to deliver aid to the people of Gaza. But it's met its end. Like, they really didn't get to give any aid really, because the terrorists kept stealing it. So there's that, but now it's like destroyed. So and it was a big load of taxpayer dollar money for something that was, I think, largely a PR stunt. So we'll be talking about that. And also Disney Plus released some kind of performance that was done with a lot of folks who were in like the original Lion King, like Jeremy Irons, and like the original Simba, and voice actors for like Timon and Pumbaa and stuff came together, and they did some performance of some of the film. But Northwest. I think did I say Southwest in the her name is Northwest, and she just did not do too hot, and singing I Just Can't Wait to Be King. And so some people are like, oh, folks I sure did say her name was Southwest. Well, give your kid real names. Let me correct that. So she didn't do too hot, so people are talking about it, and some folks are like, oh, people are being so mean, and some people are mean. Let's just, some people are. But I saw, the Daily Mail talking about, oh, people are saying mean things, saying she's a Nepo baby. I'm like, wait a second. She's totally a Nepo baby. So why are you tripping? So much of Hollywood and music is about who you know, and favor goes a long way and can a lot of times outshine talent, and she should be grateful for where she came from, because it's going to open up a lot of doors for her. But people should not be berated for pointing out that nepotism there, who she knows and her famous parents are why she was on that stage, because she clearly wasn't the best person for the job. So anyway, I want to rant about that a little bit today. Before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com. Check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost a stream to run my website out, stuff so you guys can support. I very much do appreciate it. You guys can give stars if you're watching on Facebook. If you want to do something through YouTube, you can do super chat. For watching later, you can do super thanks, and I will read super chats as long as they're not like really crazy or gross or something. I will look at the super chats. You guys can support those kind of ways, but again, you can just go to the website. That's the best way to support. You guys can also check out different merch that we have available on the website as well, different mugs and shirts and so on. So I encourage you guys to check out that kind of stuff as well. I saw a meme that I want to share, and I could save it for actual Pride Month, but I'm sure there will be plenty of memes by then, but I do usually like to start with a meme if I can find a good meme. So this was what, June 1st? When is June 1st and your kid comes home looking like this?
Oh no, no.
So that's from the Walking Dead. That's right after Lori died, if I'm not mistaken. And I think that's why he's crying like that. But yeah, they do try to get your kids and indoctrinate them and to really get them to jump on board with all this stuff, especially during the month of June. I guess there'll be plenty of things to talk about, regarding that topic and responding to in June. But June is also the anniversary of when Roe v. Wade was overturned. And so it's actually on my sister's birthday, which is the 24th, which is 2 weeks after mine. So my birthday is fast approaching. Mine is on the 10th. So I'm going to June for me is Life Month, and it's Life Month for our church, and we do a drive for a pregnancy crisis center. And so, I'll have some content I guess my content always has maybe something to do with that topic, but, I'll have, particular content about that coming out during that particular time. But yeah, June is fast approaching. So I wonder what kind of shenanigans and we will see during that time period, because people keep advocating that people should be able to do the most deranged and disgusting and inappropriate things during Pride. By the way, speaking of someone deranged and inappropriate, I told you guys, well, we did last time we chatted, I showed a video of Don Lemon on a pretty popular podcast, and they talked about COVID. And Don Lemon, he mentioned that the media didn't really shame people. And I was like, he's lying. And so I found a clip of like some of the supercuts, because I could not find it at the time. But I'm like, I know he's lying. I know he's absolutely lying. And I just kept saying that over, and I'm like, he's lying. I'm like, you guys know he's lying. So I could either show you I did a TikTok short, and I did a TikTok and I did a short on YouTube that shows the clip of me listening to him and responding to him. But I think I'll just see if I can find, supercut. So let's watch a supercut of people saying that they should shame people. And Don Lemon is in this at least twice.
You are the unvaccinated. You are the problem. It is the unvaccinated who are the problem, period, end of story.
The only people that you can blame, this isn't shaming, this is the truth. Maybe they should be shamed, are the unvaccinated.
It's time to start blaming the unvaccinated folks, not the regular folks.
Anyone you came into contact with will blame you, as will the rest of us who have done the right thing by getting vaccinated.
Because frankly, we know that we can't trust the unvaccinated.
I think it's time to get our moral house in order, Anderson. It's the unvaccinated who are the threat.
All of us vaccinated folks are going to start wearing masks to protect the unvaccinated folks. It's called a Christian value.
You're basically punishing the vaccinated for the sins of the unvaccinated.
People are not behaving honorably. The unvaccinated are basically saying, well, it's open season for me. I can do whatever I want as well.
The unvaccinated are basically beating their breasts and running around the country saying, we don't care, we're living free, and so forth.
We've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin.
The unvaccinated, a group that includes children and people acting like children. And the rest of us are starting to get pissed off.
The vaccinated feel the unvaccinated are making me upset or angry.
This is not about freedom or personal choice.
Well, my freedom is being kind of disturbed here. No. Screw your freedom.
The other day, Howard Stern weighed in with a much different approach. Take a look.
When are we going to stop putting up with the idiots in this country and just say, it's mandatory to get vaccinated? their freedom.
But you're treading on our freedom and you're making other people sick, and really you're killing other people.
The anti-vaxxers, they seem to have a thing for death and home remedies.
The anti-maskers turned anti-vaxxers are not just putting their own lives at risk. If that was the issue, we could just say that we can watch them compete to win place or show in the Darwin Awards.
We have to start doing things for the greater good of society and not for idiots who think that they can do their own research.
And don't get me started on the lunatics who won't take any of the COVID vaccines.
Life is too short to be an ass. Life is way too short to be ignorant of the promise of something that is helping people worldwide.
Maybe you're doing it because you're disconnected or disorganized. Maybe you have some sympathetic psychological reasons. But maybe you're just being antisocial.
Oh, you can't shame them. You can't call them stupid. You can't call them silly. Yes, they are.
Those who are not vaccinated will end up paying the price.
The unvaccinated should be taxed. They should pay more for health care.
We need to start looking at the choice to remain unvaccinated the same as we look at driving while intoxicated.
We're going to see, and I've said, almost two types of America.
Dr. Fauci said that if hospitals get any more overcrowded, they're going to have to make some very tough choices about who gets an ICU bed. That choice doesn't seem so tough to me. Vaccinated person having a heart attack, yes, come right on in. We'll take care of you. Unvaccinated guy who gobbled horse goo, rest in peace, Wheezy.
Pointing back to the unvaccinated who are really creating a problem in this country, every death that we are seeing from COVID could have been prevented.
Literally, the only people dying are the unvaccinated. And for those of you spreading misinformation, shame on you. Shame on you. I don't know how some of you sleep at night.
Never gonna get it, never gonna get it. Never gonna get it, never gonna get it. Never gonna get it, never gonna get it. Never gonna. Woo. Yeah, never got it. So, did not submit to that pressure. But people are trying to memory hole how crazy this was. I saw Mike Cernovich say something today. He said he used to read a lot of books about history, but now he sees like different historians and other people on like social media, and he sees a lot of them are crazy. But he also sees how people try to rewrite things that he literally just saw happen, and he wonders how much of our history is actually true because of how people immediately memory hole this stuff. And I understand people don't want to be held accountable for their vile actions, for their vile rhetoric. But you said what you said, and there's video. That's what's crazy about it. Don Lemon has to know that he got on TV on his national news program talking to other people, or with his buddy Chris Cuomo, who's trying to, try to revamp himself a bit as well. And they shamed people and they pressured people. And the reason why they need to do that is because they knew, some people might have been like ginned up to be all scared and stuff, but there was a psychological aspect to getting people to take the vaccine. And they knew that people just taking it for themselves, they're less inclined to maybe do that. But if there was the pressure of you have to do it for someone else, then people be more inclined to do it. So there was this bully culture of you are going to kill grandma, don't be selfish, blah, blah, blah. And if the vaccine actually guaranteed that you were not going to spread it to someone else, that's one thing. But very early on, we knew that that wasn't the case. And it was very early on. The earlier reports, I think said it was better than what it ended up being. But as soon as we knew that it would not guarantee that you would not spread it, then that's when people's self-righteousness needed to die. Jimmy Kimmel talked about not accepting people in the ER. They talked about taxing people who didn't get the jab, which is crazy because people, all the people who were jabbed, was that not paid for with taxpayer dollars? So people have already paid for this vaccine and many other things and going into debt, and their children are going to debt, and you don't even want these people to be taken care of if they're sick, or what if they have something else? It's not COVID. You don't think that they should go to the doctor, be treated if they have a heart attack? That's insane. It was all insane. It was all utterly insane. Do not forget how insane these people were. And as I'm listening to this, and again, I'm thinking about Don Lemon and other people who they're trying to just pretend like they weren't so freaking crazy during that time. But I'm also thinking about bodily autonomy. They care about bodily autonomy so much, but then they're like, we got to throw all the out of the window because people could die. And I'm like, bruh, aren't you guys up for abortion up until the moment of birth? And yes, they are. Don't try to say that they're not. They are. They are. They believe that women who are healthy should be able to terminate healthy, viable babies. If you want to put it that way. And I encourage people to put it that way. But and it doesn't matter. All abortions from any point of time from 6 weeks or conception, whatever, like I'm against them anyway. Like you're intending to kill that person. It's a human being. Their origin starts when at conception, etc. So I would never say it was a good time or acceptance would kill me at any point. So I'm not going to say that for someone else, you know. But yeah, it's not about your personal freedom. It's not about your liberty, all that stuff when it came to this. But now they want to pretend like, how dare you even tell a woman? How dare you even say anything and have an opinion if you don't have a uterus? It's crazy. It's absolutely bonkers. And people got away with it. And my governor got reelected and she was crazy. It's insane. It's insane. And I don't know if there'll ever be any accountability really for any of this. And people got immunity for that. If anything, I'm still of the sort of conspiracy that there could still be worse repercussions as a I don't know. Well, I had a theory. You know, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I like to put it out there in case I could be right one day. It's like, oh, she's a genius. But as more stuff comes out, because even the New York Times was reporting stories about people who were injured by the jab. You know, what if they're like, oh, we put this out there and we gave it to the people and it's caused some harm. Don't we owe the people free healthcare? Don't we owe them that? It could go that route. I think a case could be made. I obviously can't afford it too well, but I think a case could be made. So I don't think we've seen the end of how the COVID pandemic redefined our country. But I just beg of you, please do not allow these people to lie to your face and just pretend like they weren't freaking insane the whole entire time. And it just got worse. But these people are lying to your faces. Absolutely lying to your faces. So anyway, let's chit chat about Donald Trump. So he went to the Libertarian convention and RFK was there too. And he did not get the nom. Some of RFK's people were on TikTok saying, is Trump going to debate RFK at the convention? And which I didn't really expect for that to happen. But, you know, they were trying to push that idea, you know, at on TikTok and other places. And which, you know, I think that they should debate him. I think he's polling, you know, pretty decently. I think Biden's stunt with Trump was to ice out Kennedy. I already talked about that before, but I don't want Kennedy to win. You know, he supports some things that are too radical. At the end of the day, he's still left wing and et cetera, et cetera. But he probably would have brought up some things about COVID and other stuff. Not probably, he would have. And I think someone should at least mention it, talk about it, and pointing their face and like, you guys did some wrong things. Some it should happen in the primary someplace, but it is what it is. But anyway, Donald Trump showed up to some hostile territory, and you got to give him credit for that, because it's a Libertarian convention, it's not a Republican convention, and not everyone's going to go there and kiss his feet. There's a lot of MAGA people who showed up for Trump to cheer him on, and etc. But Libertarians, they are always a bit rambunctious and rowdy, particularly at these conventions. Like, I know Libertarians, and I know in real life, and Republicans who have real libertarian leanings, and they are not crazy. But these conventions are weird. There's always weird stuff going on. But they did boo Trump a little bit, and Trump heckled them back a bit. So I want to play that snippet. You guys have probably already seen it by now, but I thought it was funny how he just kind of razzed them back.
That's nice. That's nice. Only if you want to win. Only if you want to win. Maybe you don't want to win. Maybe you don't want to win. Thank you, D-Roy. Thank you. No, only do that if you want to win. If you want to lose, don't do that. Keep getting your 3% every 4 years. The reasons for doing so. That's nice.
Yeah. So he had asked for their vote, and that's when they started booing him. So he's like, only if you want to win. You can have your 3% if you want to. And that's why people get pretty frustrated with Libertarians, because and why you see people kind of move into, I'm going to be Republican and have my Libertarian leanings and work that way, because they are only getting like 3% or so on, or maybe at this point where they won't even get the 3%. And it's just, a dead option. Now, in this year, it's funny because the Republican candidate, a lot of people on the right obviously like Trump, but there's a lot of people who will vote for Trump and like the things that he did, but doesn't necessarily like him, and probably would have gone with someone else if there was enough MAGA people who would have went with someone else in the primary. Many Democrats do not like Biden. There is a report from Politico about how people are panicking about Biden. They are very concerned about the election. And Nate Silver said something, I think last week, about it, like, if Biden's numbers continue to be this bad, they need to nominate someone else. I'm like, it's not impossibly late to do something, but that's pretty interesting that they feel that way. So there's just opportunity for someone else to do particularly well, better than probably ever, maybe for a third party, if possible, if they came out as a sane person who wanted to really do good for the country, hold our elected officials accountable, make change where there needs to be change, and, and be the adult in the room. Because I think, the feeling that a lot of people get is that these two aren't quite the adults in the room. And if Biden was the adult in the room, he's, not upstairs functioning enough to be the adult in the room. And but they did not nominate such a person to justify, such support. So the Chase Oliver is the person who they nominated. So he has some interesting views, including like different LGBT pro kind of stuff. And so he here's a clip of him talking about drag shows that I found to be kind of interesting.
Why do you think that the drag queens want to read to children?
Because I think that they are performance artists, and they want to be able to have different levels of performance art. It's the same reason as why do the Wiggles sing to children? Because they want to have a marketplace to kids.
Chase,
they want to be able to. They want to be
the
able
Wiggles.
to.
The Wiggles is made for children. It's obviously family friendly material. Drag queens are not what you call family friendly kind of entertainment.
Okay, but a man in a dress is what drag is, right? Let's just be real. A man in a dress or a woman in a suit is what drag is. That is not inherently sexual. There is inherently sexual drag. And you're not going to convince me. I mean, I'm not going to defend otherwise. There absolutely is. But there's also the ability to perform as a man in a wig without being sexual. And that is what this is. And I guarantee you, if you act like I said, I went for myself because I was like, why are there people protesting this thing? I want to see what this drag queen story time is myself. And I want to see what it is. And nothing sexual was going on. And I think that is the truth for 99% of this. And I think
would you take your kids to a drag queen story hour? Or would you drop them off at a drag queen story hour? And
I don't think that's what happens. Most of the time, the parents are right there with the kids. But
I'm asking you, would you drop your kids off at a drag queen story hour and come back an hour later?
I mean, would you drop your kids off at a movie? Yeah.
Oh boy. I thought I forgot what he was going to say there at the end, and I thought maybe he might say I wouldn't drop my kids off anywhere. And my parents didn't just like leave us anywhere or with anyone. And there had to be like an older sibling or something, like someone watching us, like just us being dropped off somewhere. I think the closest was, my mom went to go see a movie in another theater the same time we went to go see Pokemon, like the first movie that came out. And her movie ran long, so we just stayed in the theater again and watched it a second time, even though I was so into the movie, like, oh my gosh, what's happening? Oh my gosh, the Pokemon clones are fighting the other Pokemon, and oh my gosh, the Pikachu slapping the Pikachu, and there's tears, and then Ash turned to stone. Then I was like, I'm done with Pokemon. This is stupid. But then I stayed and watched the whole movie a second time. But that did really kind of kill my buzz for Pokemon, though. I mean, I watched a little bit of like the next series a little bit, but that's pretty much it. Anyway, where to start with this? So he said that he feels that it's about them having access to children for their performance. Let me go back to the beginning to get the exact sort of quote there.
Why do you think that the drag queens want to read to children?
Because I think that they are performance artists and they want to be able to have different levels of performance art. It's the same reason as why do the Wiggles sing to children? Because they want to have a marketplace to kids.
Okay, because they want to have a marketplace to kids. Much of drag is very provocative and sexual and other kind of stuff like that. Now, he says at these, they are adult entertainers. So, no, I do not find it appropriate that these adult entertainers want to create a marketplace to these children. And the fact that came out of his mouth, and he's nothing's wrong with that is pretty remarkable. So he says that they don't do sexual stuff at these events. They're still adult entertainers. And I wouldn't want, would you want we'll call it popcorn, but you guys know I'm not talking about popcorn. Would you want a popcorn star to show up at your kids' library and to read to them in their costume, or maybe a slightly less provocative version of their costume, but that's what they do. That's what they do, and maybe they're not going to do anything sexual there, but they just want to provide like a marketplace to the children. How would you feel about that? How would you feel about that? Especially if it was a male popcorn star. Both would be bad, but we seem to have a particular side eye for these dudes doing it. So we're talking about male adult entertainers who want a marketplace to your children. So even if they have no sexual stuff there, let me ask this question. I know he can't answer, he can't hear me, but you guys can. Is it only sexual perversion that makes something not appropriate for children? Is that the only metric that you use to gauge whether something is appropriate for your children or not? Is that the only time? Because he says that drag is like the opposite sex dressing, like a man dressing up in a dress or a woman dressing up in a suit. That's not really true. You know, it depends what kind of dress, what kind of suit. But there's a difference in dressing in drag and drag queens. And I'm not saying I'm fond of either, but there's a difference. And you know, Medea or Jamie Foxx in Living Color or other stuff like that, or the Nutty Professor in Norbit and all that stuff that Eddie Murphy was doing versus drag queens and these adult entertainers. And I've said this before, but I guess I'll say it again. The thing about men who dress in drag to be different characters is that they are the joke. The joke is that men make ugly women. That's why it's supposed to be funny, because they look ridiculous. It is ridiculous. They are ridiculous. That's the joke. The drag queens are caricaturizing women because they are making a mockery of the female form. They are dressed in these sort of exaggerations of the female form with the biggest hair you can find and heavy garish makeup and long lashes and long nails and outrageous breast and all kinds of different stuff. It's this caricature, and they're, you know, taking these particular features of women, blowing them up, and they call themselves, you know, female different pronouns. When they're in costume, give themselves female names or really disgusting sort of names. It's about mocking women. That's the difference. Robin Williams, Mrs. Doubtfire, Medea, all that stuff. They're ridiculous at being women. That's the joke. Drag queens, women are the joke. To me, it's not that much different than like blackface and minstrel shows. You say, how dare you say that? Explain how it's not so. Explain how it's not so. Besides, one is gender and you think it's okay to mock that, and the other thing is race. So would you bring your child, would Chase Oliver, because nothing sexual might necessarily happen at a minstrel show. Would he feel comfortable bringing his children to a minstrel show? People in blackface being caricatures of black people. Because what are you trying to teach the children? What do they think it is from these drag queens that they can learn or should learn from these people dressing up as women? What are the young girls supposed to learn from that? And more importantly, what are the young men supposed to learn from that? About how to treat women, how to see women, and how to be men. So no, I don't find them to be appropriate, even if they're not doing sexual things. And remember, again, these are adult entertainers. I'm disturbed by the fact that they want that sort of access to your children. You do something disgusting. Go. Maybe you should just, you know, cut that out, get your life in order. But don't try to, I don't know, gateway into it being acceptable by reading to some kids, because there's some left-wing wackadoodles who will sit with you. And I don't know. There's some people who will expose their kids to anything and kind of sacrifice them because that makes them good and virtuous, because they're like, oh, so I'm showing how tolerant I am. I'm showing how tolerant I am. where other people be like, no way, not on God's green earth. I don't care if you think that I'm bigot or whatever. You're not bringing that mess into my kids' atmosphere and negatively influencing them. You have your issues, you work through them, but you're not going to validate yourself through my child. That's what good parents would do. And I'm not saying that the parents who bring their kid to drag story hour don't love their kids. But you're not doing it right. You're not doing it right. Sorry. Not sorry. So disturbing. Absolutely disturbing. I have an article on my website about the drag story time stuff. And why it is wrong. Again, even if they're not doing anything explicitly sexual at these things, what they do is not appropriate. And again, there's a big difference between dressing up in drag and doing drag queen stuff. Big difference. So yeah, that's Libertarian candidate. There's other stuff. He's defended vaccine mandates, not from like the government enforcement, but businesses doing it. Which I don't know how you really do the business enforcement of the vaccine without some kind of government interference, because how would you really know if your employee was actually jabbed? Because if you don't want to share that information, who's going to force you to share it if it's not some kind of like government mandate to share it? So there was another video I wanted to show. With Oliver, but I guess we don't have to because we're already kind of. Oh, here's one. Here's talking about Cop City, and he talks about how he marched with George Floyd in the protest and so on. So here you go.
So I'm here to talk about not just the injustice that Cop City brings, but what militarization of police brings to us. I was in the streets in summer of 2020 when we were peacefully protesting the murder of George Floyd, the murder of Breonna Taylor and others. And it was the Atlanta police who decided to bring the tanks rolling down the street and who decided to call in the National Guard. It was y'all who corralled us. It was y'all who were pepper spraying and tear gassing us. It was the police who were pulling people out of their cars and arresting them for no reason other than the fact they were lost on the night of the protest. And so what does the police get in reward for that? $67 million of taxpayer money to fund your facility? That's ridiculous. I don't think it's right to be giving you $1 until you restore trust with the people. And the way you do that is pretty simple. You do that by by ending qualified immunity for the Atlanta City Police so that we can get our day in court when we're done wrong. You do that by requiring your officers to hold liability insurance. So when they do wrong, it doesn't come out of the taxpayer's pocket from other services. It comes out of the pockets of the police officers who have to pay for those insurance policies. If you want to hold police accountable, there's a lot of ways to do it. But clear-cutting forests so that you can build this facility is a spit in the face of the people who have been out here speaking against it for months and months on end. Take a poll, read the room, listen to the people, and you will see that they don't want this.
So, for one of my first Republican events that I went to when we were getting like involved in the party quite a bit was this debate between this guy who was no. I'm mixing things up. No, that was a different event for another debate. But there was it was a meeting, and someone got up and people were talking about how they didn't want equipment that to them seemed kind of militarized stuff to be used for the police. And they were concerned about the police becoming like a militarized force, etc., and so on. And I was just kind of confused. And my family's kind of looking around like, we want the police to be safe and be able to stop bad guys. So it was like the first time I really heard people, I guess besides like an occasional rap song you might hear out in the world about like saying stuff bad about the police, but I was very surprised to hear someone at a Republican event talking about the police in such a negative way. But that was someone who was like very sort of libertarian sort of minded at the event. So I'm not totally surprised for that take. I'm not surprised at all. But if you made them take out their own insurance, how expensive would that be? And how would they be able to really afford that? And if they couldn't really afford that, why would they be police? And if you don't have police, who's going to protect the citizens and so on and so forth? And you could say, well, they can protect themselves, and you need a police force, just stop it. And minorities will get up and say that they want the police, need the police, and so on. In places where people had to draw back after they tried to draw back the police and defund the police, guess what? Neighborhoods found out that they needed the police. So I will be quick to call the police if I think something is wrong. They will certainly get called. Drop of a hat. There was some time ago, I heard like a big I had some neighbors. Then this was a while ago, but I had neighbors who would fight all the time, and it just didn't always sound great. And one time I heard a big thud, and it kind of sounded like I don't know, someone could have fell out of stool and came down hard, but it happened so fast that I was concerned. I immediately called the police. Immediately watching out through my window to see what went down. But it is sad though. I don't really know what happened. But I was concerned at times. But sadly, with domestic situations, the woman has to really want to cooperate for something to happen. But sometimes they don't. Like, police will say that a lot of times they hate those kind of situations because you won't really get cooperation for some kind of justice anyway. But anyway, if they have to pay for their own insurance, it just seems like it would be really, really expensive to be a police officer. And unless you just raise their salary to a large degree so they could just cover it, why would someone become a police officer? And I know you want accountability, but they are protecting the citizenry. So yes, if something goes wrong, that tends to just about it, all the money like related to them comes out of the taxpayers' pockets. But the solutions that he proposed just kind of seems like it would lead to there just being less cops. And overall, I think that would just make things less safe, particularly for neighborhoods of color. And I'm sure he marched with a lot of people of color who maybe wanted less police presence, but it's not a good thing in the end. So I'm always raising my eyebrows at people who marched and did all this stuff. And I know plenty of people who are good-hearted people who, just want to do the right thing. But all this BLM stuff, I was militant about. I saw people in my feed, they had BLM in their hashtags. I'm like, this about this organization, they're a Marxist organization, they do this, they do that, they fund this, and blah blah blah. And like, well, I'm not supporting the organization. And like, okay, but you are sort of drawing attention to them with using the hashtag, and you're pushing the narrative, and there's other ways to actually support the people, and this isn't the way. So 2020 was a awful time, and maybe he was in a peaceful protests. There are plenty of peaceful protests, but there are plenty that were not. There are plenty that were not. There were some where people died. There were plenty where stuff was vandalized. People were injured. And I don't think the police are always in the clear. They don't always do the right things. There are some police that are basically, you know, in gangs doing, but they have a badge and they do bad stuff. And then there's a lot of shady people out there and they need to be held accountable. Absolutely. There's a reason why there's plenty of movies about that stuff, you know. People have stories, right? But for the most part, if something happens, I want to be able to call the police. And if Chase Oliver makes it so that it's harder for that to happen, we got beef and we probably gonna throw hands. Okay. I want to make sure that when I call, they are there pretty quickly. Okay. So you also said, you know, stuff about the borders, and he's just not going to be a good candidate to take votes away from Trump. And so even though Trump did get booed at the convention, at the end of the day, this pick that they got, and I don't know how all the voting ended up coming in his favor or whatever, Trump is going to look like a better option. As a matter of fact, there was a libertarian who said as much. I had saved their tweet. Maybe you can find it really quick. But he was at the convention and was making fun of the MAGA people and was booing Trump. And now he's like, after they voted for Chase Oliver, he's like, I'm gonna vote for Trump. So I do not see it. So I can't show you guys, but I thought it was interesting. I did see it. And he showed like the sign of him kind of getting to an argument with a woman, which he admitted that he wanted to just kind of get attention. So he struck up a big argument with her. And then he found out that she like shared some views with him that he thought was really based. So he's like, can you help me find her and apologize to her? I'd really like to buy her a drink. She's really based. So they're pretty unserious people. So Trump like heckling them about the 3%, pretty funny. And well deserved, I suppose. Well deserved. Just going, yeah, I cannot find that tweet. So we'll move on. Anna Navarro, who's on The View, said some pretty interesting things about Latino voters, and I really quickly want to show you guys before we move on to the next segment. Now Anna has said some pretty wackadoodle things before, in my opinion. She went pretty viral for basically explaining that we need abortion in cases of, you know, someone could have Down syndrome, and they're very I guess draining to society and to the parents and so on. And so she would claim that people took her comments out of context. People were not taking her comments out of context. And so here's another doozy from Anna here. So she thinks that Latinos who vote for Trump are doing so and are anti-illegal immigration, I guess, because they think it'll make them pass as a more American.
The third thing, Jim, and this is the truth, and you and I know this, as Latinos, there are some Latino immigrants who forget they came here as immigrants and who want to shut the door behind them, and who think being anti-immigrant somehow is going to make them pass as more American, pass as whatever. And that's a very stupid attitude to have. The third thing.
So that's it. There's plenty of people who come over here who are very grateful to be over here, who had to go through great lengths to come over here legally. And they were vetted, they took the tests and so on, and they knew how long it took for them to come over, to bring their family over. They don't appreciate people skipping the line and doing things the wrong way. It's not about closing the door behind you, but people want things to be done right. They don't see it as fair. And as someone who's gone to other countries and talked to people who have been working to try to get over here and heard and listening to some of the things that they've been doing, including there's this one guy we went to the Philippines who's following us around with a satellite phone to make sure that we didn't get kidnapped. And so one of the things that he was doing is working with our State Department, and and that was supposed to help him also, I think, get better chances of of coming to America in the future. I haven't talked to him since, I guess, we were in the Philippines, really, so don't know what happened to him. But people want to come over here, and I don't blame them. But people don't want everybody to come over here because sometimes they're fleeing all kinds of crazy stuff, and they don't want those messed up values to be brought over here as well. I played a video for you guys last week of someone who came over illegally, and they paid the cartel like $10,000 to come over here. But they were upset and complaining because all the other people were coming along with him. And he was saying they're not vetted. And he thought some of these people also coming over with him were sketchy. So this was someone who's breaking our laws, coming over illegally with the help of the cartel, who's like, man, y'all got to do something because there's some really shady characters out here and y'all got to vet people. Y'all got to do a better job. It was pretty wild. It was hilarious in a very disturbing kind of way. So even they know, even the people who are breaking the law are like, we need to do something better about these people who are coming in. By the way, there's been like so many Chinese nationals that have come in, like to the into California, and it's just remarkable. 30,000 Chinese illegal immigrants since October in the San Diego sector. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's reported by John Hassan from townhall.com. 30,000. What are they all doing here? For what purpose? 30,000. That's no small number, bruh. And that's just since from October. And he had retweeted Bill Mulligan, who's been doing a lot of work for Fox on the Border. A lot of times I'll share content that's usually reports from him. But he said another 118 Chinese nationals crossed illegally into San Diego sector yesterday per CBP sources. I'm told San Diego sector has now had 30,000 plus Chinese since October 1st. Other San Diego sector nationalities since 10/1. You got almost 9,000 from India, almost 8,000 from Turkey, almost 3,000 from Uzbekistan, and it just goes on. So what are we doing here, guys? What are we doing here? And the Libertarian candidate isn't going to do anything about it. Joe Biden obviously isn't doing anything about it. The only person who's going to do anything about the border is apparently Trump. And I don't know how much they'll let him do about the border. But they have to do something that is more long lasting than a couple of executive orders. Executive orders will obviously help. Doing like remain in Mexico and other things that they did before will obviously help. Trump will probably be sued a lot in the pursuit of trying to, kick a lot of people out of the country. I don't know how successful they will be. The kind of numbers that they're kind of hoping for, the millions upon millions, I just don't see that happening. But they have to do something. But they definitely have to stop encouraging bad behavior and stop the cartel from running our border. They have to stop this. So Anna Navarro, like, oh, you just want to close the door behind you and you just want to make yourself more American and just pass as more American. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? You can't be a genuine Latino and be concerned about your border, who's coming into the country illegally, what they could be carrying, who they could be working for, what kind of crimes that they're, trying to escape prosecution for, what kind of acts of terror they might want to commit, what sort of allegiances they could possibly have that are obviously not to America. Any American should be concerned about that. And if you think they're trying to pass as more American, what does it say about you? What does it say about you who is not so concerned about that? Does that mean that you are less American? And you want people to know it? These people are nuts. Anyway, do you guys know how there was a a big pier that was created to get aid in to Gaza that the US made? It is now like out of commission because pieces of it has flooded and kind of drifted away and so on. So John Hansen, who I just mentioned from a town hall, he said the 12-day life the 12-day life of the $320 million pier. $320 million. How many packs of chicken could you have bought for your family? All the groceries that could pay for so many people or whatever, just the money that we waste for dumb stuff for this. It's basically a virtue signal sort of situation, because if you're not going to stop Hamas from getting the supplies, you're just fatting up the terrorists. You're just fatting up the terrorists. So May 17th, aid flows into Gaza over a massive US pier. So that's this first headline here. So then on the 21st, none of the aid from the US pier has been delivered. Okay, according to the Pentagon. That sucks. Okay. And then on the 25th, pier damage, but still functional. Okay. All right. And then we get to the present, and U.S. military pier operation suspended after peace breaks off. I see so many videos and so many people online talk about people who need food in Gaza. But they are shipping in. Israel is a lot. People are like, oh, they're starving them. Israel is allowing a lot of food to come in for people. Plenty of food. But here's the question. What are you going to do about all these terrorists who are taking the food, who are willing to run people down, willing to shoot them, who are taking it and selling it back to these people at premium prices, if they're even willing to do that? So what are you willing to do? Because there's this one person on TikTok, Miss Rachel. People are annoyed with her, and I think maybe I think they just would prefer people not to take any kind of sides. But she did a video talking about she wanted to raise money, and she would do like special shout out videos, and for the funds raised from that, she would send it to like help different people in need for food or whatever. Noble cause. But I think it's we have to have a conversation about the fact that these people aren't getting the food because the terrorists keep taking it. So if you really care about these people, you have to want Hamas destroyed. You have to want Hamas destroyed. Because they've been taking money and aid and for a while. Not just between like since October the 7th. So if you're not going to wipe them out and support Israel in that cause, you're just going to want Israel to take the L and have to live in a more dangerous world because they can be defeated and their enemies see their weakness. They just have to launch a really big propaganda war, and they will know that using their citizens as human shields and propping up their dead bodies, sometimes not real dead bodies, but inflating the numbers, doing all these sort of tactics work, and it keeps them in power so they can keep being cruel to their citizens. They understand that. So you can have a bleeding heart about all this stuff, and it's I admire the compassion, but you have to have some wisdom and just think like, what can we do to actually help these people? And the answer is that Hamas cannot exist anymore. And you might say, well, at what cost? What's the cost of leaving them be? What's the cost of leaving them be? The answer is more starvation, more corruption, more terrorism, and more dead Jews. So Biden trying to look like he's doing something, it's just a failure. Just an absolute failure. So just there's like nothing good about his foreign policy, man. Just every decision is just trash. Every decision is trash. Last thing I wanted to talk about before I let you go, and I won't talk about it very long because we're already over. But on TikTok, at least, people are talking about this performance from Kanye West's daughter, Northwest. And there was a performance where they had they're performing like the songs from The Lion King, and they had like original cast members come out and sing the original Simba and Jeremy Irons and other folks like that to sing the songs. And people are like, oh, this is really cool. This is really awesome. But there was one performance that wasn't so hot, and that was from the daughter of Kanye West and Kim Kardashian. And people have been talking about it pretty much nonstop on social media. And some people are reporting that people are being really mean about it. And I don't think that some people are mean, sure. Some people are mean. Some people are dishonest. But the sort of defense that people are bringing up is kind of strange to me, because there's this report from Daily Mail, I believe, that was like, oh, they called her a Nepo baby.
The original Simba, Jason Weaver, took to Instagram to praise 10-year-old Northwest, who suffered a brutal backlash for her performance as young Simba. The Lion King star praised North, saying what an honor it is to share the same stage with this young superstar in the making. This comes after brutal online trolling following her performance on Friday, with people labeling her a Nepo baby.
She is a Nepo baby. I don't so anyway, the fact she's very blessed to have a lot of money, or be in a family with a lot of money on both sides, to have empires from different businesses on both sides. But she has these famous parents, and that can definitely be a big curse along with a blessing. But Kanye West, he had her on his album, which is fine. It's his album. He can do what he wants. But that's her dad, and Kim Kardashian is her mom. So she obviously has that job because she's famous. She's a famous child with famous parents. So, which, kudos to her. She's going to have a lot of doors that are open for her. So much of music and other industries is about who you know. And she knows people in the know. She has a lot of favor on her life, and people use that to their advantage. And it sucks when you're really talented and you don't have those kind of connections, and people bust their butts to try to make good connections so they can get out there one day. But there's obviously other kids who audition, or just, other actors who are young talent who could have did a better job. So them saying, oh, she's being bullied because she's being called a Nepo baby, well, she didn't get the job because she was the best person for the job. So I'm gonna go ahead and play this. Hopefully I don't get flagged by Disney. But here's a bit of her singing the song. So yeah, so not really given much of a performance at all. Now when I first started seeing videos circulating around of this event, I think watch it on Disney Plus, but I was very confused about the costume because I'm like, why is everyone else like in normal kind of looking costumes and she's like in a hoodie with these baggy pants and you can see her pigtails from the side of her coming down from her sides. So I was very confused about that because it's very mishmash. Now I have seen, this isn't like on Broadway, this is for the special event or whatever that the performance they're putting on. I have seen Lion King on Broadway and it is amazing. And I used to see the costumes of the animals. I'm like, that how is this gonna look not stupid? And then I actually saw it, and I went. Was I in elementary or middle school or something? I was young, but I was in school, and the school went, and I thought it was incredible, especially the scene where Mufasa talks to Simba. What they do with the stage is just incredible. If you haven't seen it, you just got to see it yourself. But when you see like everyone in costume, it just works. Everything just works. It's so good. So this isn't what they would normally wear. And it just doesn't look up to snuff compared to at least everyone else who's on that particular stage. So I didn't understand what was going on. And I'm like, why is this little girl singing it? But she's obviously not the right person for the job. She's not even a boy. She's not even a boy. It's like, I just can't wait to be king, So yeah, she got the job because she has famous parents. And is it so crazy for people to point that out? She's out there, I'm sure, doing her best, but she wasn't the best person for the job. No one is going to believe that. So yeah, she got the job because she has famous parents, and just deal with that. And she could be like, yep, I'm very blessed, and I'm going to take advantage of my opportunities, and I'll do better. I'll try to do better. And but just one thing about parents, if you put your kids out there, I'm not saying people have to be cruel to the kids or anything like that, but if you do put your kids out there to perform, and I'm not talking about a school play, I'm not talking about a little video they did on TikTok that you posted or Instagram or Facebook. I mean, if you're going to put your kid out there in some kind of professional setting, expect people to have an opinion. You can say, oh, it's so mean, people talking about kids. People will always know some other kid who is a young professional or someone who could have did a better job. Especially if you're pulling strings to get them that job, know that there's people who are going to say something. If you're going to put them in the limelight, and they start kind of having a professional job, people will treat you like a professional. Even if you were taught, maybe people will be nicer to you than they would normally be to an adult. But you have to expect that your children are going to get criticism. And so a couple months ago, I posted a reaction video of this little girl just butchering the Star Spangled Banner. People were quite upset. And some people just felt like people had no right to talk about the little girl, which mostly I didn't, and other people didn't. Because I did a reaction video with actually it was people from my church. But the most of the commentary was, what are the adults in her life doing, because they probably like blew up her head and she probably thinks she's so great at this, but she kind of needs to learn to stay in her lane. She's not pulling all the stuff off that she wants to do with the song. And just side note, people really do like when you sing it kind of plain. Like you can do a couple runs here or there, but people tend to like a plainer rendition of the national anthem, especially at these. I mean, people mostly sing them at sports events and other stuff like that. So people like to sing along, and it's very awkward anyway when you're singing and people like you do that high jump and stuff. You know, I do a couple bells and whistles when I sing it, but I'm mostly remembering that the audience instinctively wants to sing along with this song. So it's not just a moment for you, it is a moment for everyone because you're singing the national anthem. But people felt like, oh, you can't say anything, and they would also, so some people are like, oh, you couldn't do any better. And I don't know why people go that route. I'm like, I can sing very well, and I've been singing, you know, since I was. It's Gonna Be a Mighty King is a song that I sang just around the house, and my sister was like, oh my gosh, and they realized that I could sing. So I didn't sing as a professional child or anything like that, but you know, I had to sing Safest Place by Karen Clark and her daughter many times as a duet with my sister. So I'm sure there was like a lot of church kids who could have sung that song better than Northwest, but you just kind of got to deal with the fact that people are talking about her singing, and it's valid when you put yourself out there. It just is anyway. Thank you guys for joining me today. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost to stream and run it and all that stuff. So if you guys can support, appreciate it. You guys can check out different merch that's available at the store, like different mugs and t-shirts. So go ahead and check that out. You guys can also check out my different books. There's a link in the description for watching your Facebook and YouTube that'll take you to some of my books. I have one that's coming out next month. On my birthday on June 10th, it's a sequel to my book, The Dark Mermaid. So the second book is called The Sea Witch. So that'll be really cool. But I have 16 fiction books out and 2 nonfiction books. So plenty of stuff that you can read and check out. One of the nonfiction books is Slay Your Fear, How to Overcome a Spirit of Fear. And I wrote that because of COVID, because people were acting crazy. We already talked about that at the beginning of the show. And it's not specifically about COVID, but man, it was needed during that time. So that's one of my nonfiction books, but most of the books that I have are fiction. Anyway, God bless you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.